Hello, and welcome to another episode of Backlog Brain Rot. Today I'm joined by my usual co hosts, Strawhat
Konnichiwa, Mina-san.
and Connor.
Здравствуйте.
Yeah, what you said. I have been looking forward to this episode for a long time, and I know a lot of you have as well. We are going to be taking your lists and adding them into the episode as we go. So we all know that we have a lot of great games that we love, and of course, we all have hundreds and hundreds of games that kind of fall in the "that was pretty good, that was a good game" category. But we also can all accept and realize that we also enjoy games that are bad, just truly, truly awful games. We love them despite their flaws, or maybe, just maybe, we think they don't actually have any flaws, and we're confused why people don't like them. So today we have each come up with a list of 10 bad games that we enjoy. Just a note, to qualify as bad, we decided to set the limit of the Metacritic at 70, but the lower the better.
My list is going to feature a lot of things that make you think of that Snoop Dogg gif where he's going, "Who?"
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, like, my list, it was a lot harder to make this list than I thought. I know when Parrott originally pitched the idea, I'm like, oh, this will be easy because I'm sure I have tons of games that are below 70 that I think are way better than that. But I looked and I had to dig a little bit. I'm like, it's tougher than I thought because some bad games actually did better than I thought.
Yeah,
So it was rough.
This
check.
would be easy. But I guess it just shows you that even games that are not very good just tend to score at least in the 70s. So I was
Yeah,
struggling to find stuff that I really truly liked a lot that was below 70.
it's
Hmm.
something I discovered while browsing the likes of itch.io and just making games myself that making anything that could have been released on a console back in the early 2000s was a lot of skill and effort in its own right. So getting below a 70 pretty much is like you have to be trying to fail at that point.
Yeah, it's got to be a really bad game. I feel like, especially newer games now, it's even harder for them to be like that terrible. Like, I think the newest game I have on my list is, I think the newest console is GameCube and PS2. There's nothing past that for me.
I have some PS4 stuff.
Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong then.
Well, no, you're right mostly. I did struggle, but I've come up with a list of pretty much all games below 65 average.
I've just had so many gems to play and so much more access to play them in the last 10 years. That's just, I don't really find a whole lot of things unless they're completely unrated because I
Right.
play lots of indie stuff that's not on the thing. My top one VN's not even rated.
That's true. And the thing for me too is, like, if I don't like a game, I just drop it. I don't finish it.
Yeah, some of these games I did not finish, but I enjoyed them enough. I'm like, I got to put these on the list. And then we have a lot of submissions from a lot of different people with their lists, and there really are a lot of games that people have enjoyed over the years that are below that rating, below that 70.
You know, and certainly a lot of games that I was surprised were below 70 that I never would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had that a few times too. And then there's games I swore would be below 70 that were not. Like I just
Yeah.
know that one game I was going to put towards the top of my list would have been Ukulele because I just know people always complain about that game. And then I looked and it had above a 70. So I'm like, okay, so maybe people don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Have a long list of stuff where I was like, surely this is bad. Nope. Everyone put it like a 70s. Some things were even in the 80s when I checked. I was like,
Yeah.
who was I talking to that I
Yeah,
thought?
right.
That's like, I had said on the Discord earlier, I'm like, I thought for sure Donkey Kong 64 gets so much hate. Like, people just hate on that game. It's got like a 90 or 92 on Metacritic.
Really, yeah.
That
It
was
just
considered top of the line at the time.
Yeah, it's more over time people were down on it, but it's like at the time everybody loved it, and I think it's probably going to come back again. Everybody will be like, "Oh no, we always loved it." You know how that goes.
Yeah. The ebb and flow of who's the loudest party of the group.
Mhm.
because it all just depends on who you talk to sometimes. You might think a game is, you might think a lot of people hate a game just because of who you talk to, and then you branch out a little further and you find out there are a lot of people that like it too. So how about we get started? We're just going to go 10, 9, 8, all the way down to our 1, and we'll just kind of pass it around as we go. So, Strawhat, why don't you start us off with your number 10?
All right, so my number 10, I actually played it last year, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. But it was the first GameCube game I ever got because at the time my brother and I put our money together to save up to get it, and I sold my N64 and all the games. Very dumb, but at the
Yeah.
time, that's what I had to do. And we got the GameCube, but then it's like we didn't really have enough money for a game. So I really wanted NBA Courtside 2002, which was the last NBA Courtside game, shockingly enough, because my cousin had that. But it was $50, which we didn't have. So we settled for a different game that was $20, and it was Tarzan Untamed.
Let's go.
So this game was made by Ubisoft, which is funny looking back now. But when
Yeah.
I played this game for the first time, I thought the graphics were so amazing because they have pre-rendered cutscenes, which now if you look it up, they look so terrible. It looks like a PS1 game at times, like the cutscenes, I feel like. But it's a pretty fun game. Like some of the sections in the game, you have like a lot of water surfing and like skiing over that. And those levels are definitely the best. The boss fights are not great. They're just like quick time events where you just hit the same button over and over again usually. And then you also have to like replay levels a lot if you want to get all the secrets. And then you also just have a button where Tarzan just shrieks the whole time. He just like screams at the top of his lungs. So that's one of the best parts. But yeah, it has a 61 on Metacritic, a user score of 7. But I think it's better than that. It's at least a 7.
Not
Come
gonna
on now,
lie.
people.
It's funny. We were talking before we started recording, like, will we have any of the same games? And we already do, because this is number 5 on my list.
Oh, so it's higher.
I loved this game as a kid. I played this constantly. I probably beat this game like a dozen times. You just remember you would slide on the trees,
Yep.
and you would save the little monkeys from the cages and then bring them to their moms. And you could pick up the spears and throw them to break the vines so you could swing on them. Then there was bungee jumping levels and surfboard levels. It was so good.
Crazy that you have this game.
That is really funny. I'm looking at some screenshots right now because I was curious, and that's actually a pretty darn good looking Nintendo 64 game. Like
Oh,
the
GameCube.
hippos.
It's
Oh,
GameCube.
GameCube.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember you bouncing on the hippos.
Yep.
Funny. I just played this like literally a week ago on the Steam Deck. I was just testing out some games. I'm like, oh, what's a GameCube game I could boot up and play? Oh yeah, Tarzan Untamed.
Yeah. See, I played it last year. That's so funny.
Oh, I don't know where my brain was going because there also is a Tarzan game on
There is.
Nintendo 64,
Yep,
and it's
and
pretty good looking
PS1.
for a Nintendo 64 game.
Yeah, Tarzan's so good. It's also was my favorite Disney movie, so that's also probably why I like the game so much.
Agree. The best soundtrack.
Yep, Phil Collins. He was just hit after hit in that movie.
Dude, Phil Collins is always good.
That's funny. We instantly have a duplicate.
Yeah, it's gonna mess up our list a little bit, but we might have some more duplicates.
I know
So
Connor and I are gonna have a really famous, popular duplicate later on.
Oh yeah, Tarzan and the GameCube one's kind of creeping me out.
they look really weird. It's like a weird cell shading of it. It's like I don't know what's going on with it.
Go back to Nintendo 64 graphics, please.
Yeah.
So that was my number 5, but we'll go back to my number 10, which is a game that I really only have played for a few hours, but I just love the concept of the game so much, and the execution leaves a bit to be desired. But that is Naughty Bear with a Metacritic of 43.
The famous Colin Moriarty game.
Yep. I just love the idea of being a murderous teddy bear on this island of all the peaceful teddy bears, and you sneak around and try to sneak up behind them and assassinate them, and all these like crazy kills on the other teddy bears. It's just such a funny, weird idea. And as someone that loves Hitman and other stealth sort of games, like this in concept is so good. That's why I just had to shout it out, even though when you actually play it, it freezes every like 2 minutes. It freezes and turns into a slideshow, and you think the game's broken. But at its heart is something very interesting.
That's one of those games where I saw it when I was a kid. I was just wondering to myself, what kind of laced pot were those guys smoking?
Yeah, I've never played this game, but obviously I heard the legends about it. I didn't have a PS3, so was it only on PS3 or was it on other things?
I think it might have been on Xbox 360 also.
Okay, well,
There
I
also
missed
was a
it
second
then.
one. Believe it or not, there is somehow two. The second one's Tropical Paradise or something in Paradise. I don't know. I didn't play that one yet. I might get to it one day. But also, our Discord member Sam also wrote in and put this on his list too. So there are Naughty Bear fans out there.
There's a few, yes.
And then they went on to make Dead by Daylight.
Huh.
Yes, indeed.
So maybe the Naughty Bear should be the new killer in Dead by Daylight one day.
They made it work. Props to them. All right, at my number 10 is a real kind of out of left field sort of pick. Disney Pixar's Cars.
Ooh.
On the Xbox 360. A Metacritic of 65.
Wow, pretty high.
Yep. This is one I got in the heyday of the Xbox achievements. It was I wouldn't quite call them bargain bin, but my dad every year for Christmas, he kind of had like this ranked stack of games he would buy us. It would be like 2 or 3 of the good stuff, like the AAA. These are probably still full priced. And then to pad it out, or I should say round it out, he would then pick some like budget titles that looked pretty interesting. And then he might just grab something that was like really cheap. I don't know why his selection process was like that, but it was incredible because I played some really weird things that I never would have otherwise because of that.
Now, so is it like a racing game, or is it more
Pretty
like
much.
Okay.
It's kind of like a adventure racing game where honestly, the closest comparison is probably something like Burnout Paradise with less of an there's less world to explore, but it's that kind of structure. And I was just playing it for the achievements, but over time I realized that I was actually enjoying the racing, and so it's always just sat there as a. I was like, yeah, this is a really solid 3-star game that has no reason to be as solid as it is, considering it was, like shovelware movie tie-in game.
A lot of Disney games on our list so far. 2 out of 3.
Yeah, you never expect that from me because Pixar is pretty much the only thing from Disney
Yeah.
that I usually care about.
I feel like the old license games, there are some good ones though. Just like I heard legendary rumors about Barnyard, the Nickelodeon show and movie, that like the game on GameCube, PS2, and Xbox is like really good. It's like a GTA clone,
What
but
the
it's
hell?
like Barnyard style.
That's incredible.
That's amazing.
I should try
and
that one.
There's a lot of good Toy Story games too. I remember the PS1 Toy Story game. It was just so good.
Yeah, those things were kind of interesting when I play them. Shrek 2 is the one I always think about, but surprisingly, that one was actually rated too high for this list.
I know. I was gonna put that on my list. Actually, I think I had it at
too.
one point.
Me too. I looked. I'm like, oh, this is too high. I can't believe it's too high, but it is apparently.
Shrek 2, the game, was legendary.
So fun with 4 people.
Yeah. Anyways, that was my number 10.
All right, Straw, you want to give us your number 9?
All right, so my number 9 is not a Disney game, but a Nickelodeon game, and it is Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Game Boy Advance game.
Ooh,
which
spicy.
that one has. Let me look it up. I was gonna have these ready, but I was slacking. It is a 64 on Metacritic. But see, the user score is 8.6. That's where I'm like, the critics got this one wrong. Now, only 4 outlets reviewed this game, and IGN gave it a 60, which I'm like, okay, IGN. The GameSpot gave it a 70, but the rest of them I don't really know. But this is kind of like a puzzle it's not really a platformer because there's no jumping, but it's more like a puzzle adventure game, which is why it works so well on Game Boy Advance, because you basically control Aang, Katara, and Sokka. You get all 3 of them eventually, and there's different puzzles like you go to different screens and you have to solve a puzzle to like put water in this crate so that you make it heavy enough to push on the switch. And then the boss fights kind of work like that too. And I just think it's a fun time. I also played this one last year, and it's really enjoyable.
I did always like it when those Game Boy Advance games were more of adventures than just some stupid action game.
Yeah, because I think the console games are famous for being super easy to get max achievement points on or something, because you can get it like within the first 15 minutes, I heard, or something.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing a video of someone just like spamming a rock move at one of the NPCs at the start and getting every achievement in the game.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
that is.
surprised it isn't just like an action platformer on GBA. That seems like that would make a lot of sense with Avatar.
I know, and
Yeah.
I'm always like, how did I even? I liked the show a lot back then. That's probably why I got it. But it's like, what was my thought process behind even buying this game at the time?
Uh,
I wonder that sometimes too. I think about some of the games I had. It's like, whoa, what was I doing? Why did I want this so badly?
Nowadays, I just always blame it on the humble bundles. Why do I have this game?
Yeah, that's
It
true.
was
That's a
probably
good
free.
point.
Did either
Yeah,
of you play the flat, like the 3D browser based Avatar game?
no,
No, I did used to play the Cartoon Network games when they were like hot. Like you'd play
Oh
those
yeah,
on the
of
web.
course.
But other than
Those
that,
were
no.
those were incredible. Yeah, I don't have much to say about it, but I just always remember that it had like the bending combat, and I think it was just like always in alpha because I don't know if you could actually beat that game.
I was pretty late to Avatar. I didn't actually watch Avatar until I was an adult, so I didn't really know much about Avatar when I was younger, and it was actually airing.
Yeah, great show.
I didn't like Korra as much. I like Avatar more, The Last Airbender more.
Yeah, I want to watch that eventually. But I can say that the trio of main characters in Avatar a lot better than the trio of characters I will talk about in my next game, 3-on-3 Freestyle, which is a
Ooh.
53 average on Metacritic. It
Nice
is a
segue.
free to play 3-on-3 basketball game. It is on, PlayStation 4 and other consoles, I'm assuming. It is honestly, I can't justify this one. It's truly awful. It is very free to play in the worst ways, where each basketball player, they have different moves, and the characters that cost real money have moves that are way better than the free people moves. So you could do anything in your power to try to stop someone, but if they have paid money, they are going to beat you in this game. Pretty much, it doesn't matter if you know basketball, you have strategy. It does not matter. They're still going to beat you. But for some reason, my two friends and I played this game for probably like 30, 40 hours online.
Oh man.
So
Yep.
is this like an NBA Jam like type game or?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just 3-on-3 half court. Yeah, and
And
then
when
each
you
character has their own perks and moves, and which is
Oh
fun
boy.
in theory, except for it's basketball. So like when only one person can do one specific thing, it's like, okay, this is a little ridiculous.
when you start up the game, there's like 10 different buttons and options that will lead you straight to the store page.
Yep, and there's like to upgrade your characters to get new moves. It's like you have to have like a PhD degree in 3-on-3 freestyle to figure out how to do something without paying.
Oh boy.
It's awful, but also it was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was pretty addicting.
Yeah, every once in a while there's one of those egregiously free to play games, but you can get through it because you have a couple of friends who will
Yep.
go through the misery with you.
Yeah, I mean, turns out that having a character that is paid only, that is really good at stealing the ball, is not very fun to anybody else on the team.
What? No.
Can't believe it. Or someone that has a unblockable fadeaway jump shot that only they have. Not very fair.
All right. So my number 9 is one that I can actually barely remember because it's just been that long since I've played it. But since I actually had to work pretty hard to get like 10 or 11 under 65, and I remember enjoying it quite a lot. I did play a ton of it, but it was Rayman Arena on the PS2, which has a Metacritic of 63.
I
Mm.
remember playing this game too.
Yeah, it was like a weird mix of there's a I think there was a mix of modes, but the one I remember the most, like the clearest in my head, was this battle race mode where it wasn't like a kart race or anything like that. It was like a platform, like not temple run, but like running straight forward, jumping over things, kind of platforming race with weapons and secret paths and things like that. And I thought it was really cool, all the stuff you could find, and you could unlock costumes for all the characters, unlock weapons and all that stuff. It was probably janky as hell. That's probably why it's not rated very high, because it was like a PS2 party game. But I loved it.
Yeah, I remember playing this, but I don't remember much about it. I gotta be honest. Just like you said, it just kind of. I know I had it. I got a PS2 for Christmas. My brother and I, but my mom only bought us like really weird games. Like I know we had Rayman Arena, and then we had some like little racing game called like Gadget Cars or something like that. I
I
don't know.
vaguely remember that. But yeah, for some reason, I can't remember any of the details, just that I loved it and played a ton of it.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this game, so this is all new to me.
Well, we're gonna have to do the meetup. We're gonna have to do the Rayman Arena.
I guess so. Get the PS2 out.
Maybe we can play Pac-Man Fever too. Remember that one?
Ooh,
Like
I've never
Mario
played it, but it
Party
sounds
Pac-Man.
great.
Yeah.
There's a couple Pac-Man games like of that kind of vein that I was like, oh, maybe that'll be low enough, but they never were. It was weird. Do you remember Pac-Man? I think it was like Pac-Man Versus on the GameCube.
Oh,
You ever
yeah.
play that? Where it was just Pac-Man, but one person controlled Pac-Man while four people were the ghosts, and you had to
Yep.
like control Pac-Man on your Game Boy Advance.
That sounds sick.
Yeah, it was
Minus the
such a
Game
good
Boy
game.
Advance part.
Well, that
Yeah,
was the gimmick. They had to get people to use it, the hookup.
Gosh dang, I hated that hookup. That game, that thing ruins Animal Crossing for me. It ruined. This was The Legend of Zelda. Wind Waker for me. Just knowing that whole time I was playing the game that there's all this functionality I could not
Locked
touch because I
behind.
didn't have your working gimmick. Crystal Chronicles. I'm looking
Yep.
at you.
I was thinking of that one, yeah.
Before we move on to our eights, how about we take a quick little break and read off a couple Discord write-ins? So Ryochi only wrote in one game, Alpha Protocol from 2010. Have either of you played that?
I will be this year, it sounds like.
I have not, but I heard really good things because I heard it's from BioWare, so that's how I was always interested. I think it was BioWare.
Obsidian, I
Maybe it's
think.
Obsidian, but
Which
it's a
was,
lot like a Mass Effect game. I heard with
yeah, it's
choices and stuff.
at that point, Obsidian was basically a swap, like a subsidiary of
Yeah, that's
BioWare. It might as
true.
well have been.
And Gremlin wrote in a handful of games. Some of them I also really enjoy. He wrote in Disaster Report for PS2, a game called Tube Slider that I've never heard of,
Me neither.
Valkyrie Elysium, Resident Evil Survivor, Sonic the Fighters, which I also played quite a bit of on the one of the collections on GameCube, and then Kane and Lynch 2, which is a game I also think is so good. It's like a co-op shooter, and I remember very vividly there's this part where you're just running around a whole level like just naked shooting people. I don't
Oh my
remember
God.
why. It's just like a crazy co-op game. I remember my friend Mike and I like took our PS3s and we had two TVs next to each other and we just played this thing in like two sittings and it was just like a crazy ride.
I always
I,
thought people really liked that game, so I'm surprised it's so low.
Maybe they liked the first one.
yeah,
I
that
remember
one
the
had
first one
a.
was not co-op, even though it seems like it should be based off the name.
I never touched that one, but I heard about it a lot back in the day because I was always looking for couch co-op games to play, and that one kept popping up, but it kept popping up all over the place, so people could tear it down. Basically, it was infamous. It seemed
Yeah,
like.
yeah. It's not on my list, but I did also think it was pretty fun. Straw, you want to give us your number 8?
All right, so my number 8 is another Game Boy Advance game, and it is Teen Titans.
Oh boy.
The original. So the funny thing is, once again, I heard that the Game Boy Advance version was better than the actual console games. But I got this for Christmas one year. I remember wanting it. And it's kind of like, again, it's not it does have puzzles, kind of like Avatar, but it's more of an action platforming type. And you can switch to the Titans or switch to any of the Titans on the fly, and you have to use certain ones for certain puzzles and certain enemies. And I haven't played this one in a while, but it's on my list to play again at some point. So I'm curious much I still like it. But it has a 61 on Metacritic, and the user score is a 7.4, so it's a little higher. But I remember really liking this game, and I also saw there's a sequel, and I'm like, well, maybe I should get it if I still really like this game at some point.
Was that based off the the Cartoon
Cartoon.
Network,
Yeah,
like the
it's
original
based off the
Cartoon Network
Cartoon
one?
Network, which I loved Teen Titans growing
Yeah, that
up, and
was a
it's
good
based
show.
off of the third season with Brother Blood, which was also one of my favorite seasons. So that's what this game's based off of. Where Teen Titans 2 I saw is based off the final season.
Hmm. I can't remember which season was which because I was always watching things and just whatever it gave us. Are you gonna watch the Terra arc for the 15th time? Sure.
Yeah, I never really watched Teen Titans as a kid. I don't know why. My love of superheroes, other than Spider Man, didn't really come until later in my life, which is weird because everybody knows how much I love reading comic books now. But back then, I really just read Spider Man. That was it. So Teen Titans, I never even saw.
That was one. Yeah, Teen Titans and Avatar both. I was like into immediately when they came out. I was just at the right age, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just, other than like the more just like normal kid shows on like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, the only thing else I really watched was Dragon Ball Z, just on repeat.
I watched that too.
Can't fault you there.
Yeah, except I never made it past the Android saga, so who knows?
I just saw the Boo. I just
Yeah.
saw the Boo arc in
Over and over
back,
again.
over and over again, and backwards order too.
The perfect viewing experience.
Yeah, like wow, which one am I gonna get? Oh, it's in the middle of the arc. This one's near the end. This one's at the beginning. I have no idea what's going on.
But it's fun.
Yep.
Well, my number 8 is kind of fun, and that is PS4's classic game Knack with a 54 on Metacritic.
Ooh,
That's a perfect
legendary.
game.
Which I think is, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that Knack is some amazing game, but I don't think it's a 54.
Look, Donkey gave it a perfect score. So what are you talking about?
So I played this game like maybe like 4 years ago. Just like I was just curious. I'm like, I've never played this. It was free on PS Plus, I think, or maybe it was like $4 in a sale. I don't remember how, but I bought it and I downloaded it and played it, and I don't think it was amazing, but I think it's better than a 54. I went in expecting some sort of platforming game based off of just what I looked like, but it was played a lot more like an old God of War game where it was just melee
Yeah.
combat and rolling around and dodging, and that was pretty much
Whoa.
it.
Yeah, just what I've seen from it, I would say, or from all the stuff I've seen that have gone 60s and 70s, there's no way Knack is a 54.
Yeah, like is it great? No, but it's not, worse than Teen Titans on Game Boy Advance. I'm sure it is not.
I haven't played it, so I don't know. But yeah, I think people just wanted Knack to be
Something else.
Mario.
Yeah, I think it presented itself and made it look like it was going to be something that it was not. So it definitely can see why it would not be appealing. But I did end up, buying, spending $5 and playing Knack too. So I liked it enough for that.
They won.
And let's see. So my number 8 is we're gonna go ahead now and put in some legendary games, some excellent games, some just real choice premium 4A star games. Pocket Bike Racer and Sneak King. That's right, the
Ooh.
Burger King games, baby.
There we go.
These games had no right being as fun as they were, especially Pocket Bike for me, since that was the one that you could play when all your cousins were over and was not big bumping, which we did not enjoy.
So the Burger King, I put all these in the same as well. Burger King trilogy. I put all three of them. Big Bumpin' at a 63, Pocket Bike at a 54, and Sneak King at a 54. So these were actually combined. These are my number 4 on my list.
Whoa.
I played these so much for some reason. I couldn't tell you why.
That's kind of how it was for. Well, I know exactly why for me. They were
$4.
one. Well, they were cross-platform, true
Right,
cross-platform, right? So they came out on Xbox and Xbox 360,
Yep.
and it supported both versions out the gate.
On
So
one
you
disc.
could get achievements on the 360. And we had just gotten an Xbox 360 shortly after that with one game, Halo 3. So the only other things we had to play were Hexic HD, which was too highly rated for this list,
Yep.
and the Pocket Bike Racer. That was our 360 glory game.
Yeah, because I was, I think, really late middle school around this time. So a bunch of my friends had just gotten Xbox 360s, and we had an Xbox Live, but yeah, we had no real games. So we just played Pocket Bike Racer online. Like, I think we had all the achievements. And unlike you, we all loved Big Bumpin'. Like, we'd go to my one friend's house because he was the one friend that had the parents that would let us all just hang out at his house all the time. The parents crazy enough to let, like 8 middle school kids all hang out in their house every week.
That was our house.
Yeah, that was not my house. My mom was not into that idea. But so we would go there and we just boot up out of all the games we could have played. We all just booted up Big Bumpin' and we just play that thing for hours on end.
Yeah.
You just play, what is it? It was like you play as bumper cars, but there's all sorts of different mini games like hockey and like battle modes.
We all had Fusion Frenzy for that. So I guess in our heads, that was just like a lower class Fusion Frenzy.
That makes sense. I never played Fusion Frenzy. I only played Big Bumpin'.
Well, Now you got another party game you can try out.
Yeah. And
But
then
for us with Pocket Bike Racer, a bunch of my cousins were into dirt bikes, so of course you get the little Burger King dirt bike game. We're all over that.
yeah, and it was just like a replacement for Mario Kart that you could actually play online.
Yes, we didn't have Mario Kart.
Yeah. And at this time you wouldn't have been able to play online or anything anyways, so
Yep.
I sadly missed out on all these games. Even though I had a 360, I just was not. I was too busy playing all the NBA 2K games and Blue Dragon and Resonance of Fate and
Blue
stuff
Dragon
like
was
that.
dope.
you missed out. You missed out.
Mm.
Yeah,
Sneak
especially
King, not actually that great when you play it, but it's just such a crazy, awesome idea of playing
yes.
as the Burger King, sneaking around, scaring people as in giving them food is just so
Putting
funny.
Whoppers in their
And
pocket.
those full motion videos in the like
Yes,
the start menu of just the guy creeping around were so legendary. That game is so memorable, but I sucked at it, so I
me
actually don't
too.
really have a lot I can say about it because I didn't get to play much.
I remember I got like 3/4 of the way through and I just couldn't. I couldn't play anymore for whatever reason. I think it got glitched or it got too hard. I don't remember.
You couldn't
Um,
sneak anymore.
No, I know I'm like 95% positive I had all the achievements in Big Bumpin' and Pocket Bike Racer though, and my friend did get 100% in Sneak King. So we've played a lot of these Burger King games. That's why I put them at 4 on my list.
Incredible games.
All right, Straw. I want to move on to your number 7.
Yes. So my number 7 is another Game Boy Advance game, and I'm curious if you guys have heard of this one. Now, this one barely made the list because it clocked in at a 69, even though the user score is an 8. And it is
Nice.
Sonic Battle on Game Boy Advance, a Sonic fighting game. Have you guys ever heard of this game?
I've heard of it but never played it.
Yeah,
So,
same. It looked familiar and it sounds familiar, but I never played it. But now I
so
kind of want to.
oh, it's good. I want to play it again because it's like I don't know how. I want to go back and figure out how I even figured out how to buy this game because I don't. It's such a weird purchase for me, but I did really like Sonic. But it's a 2D fighter, but you're in like a 3D environment. And
Oh,
I
fun.
just remember loving the story mode because you're basically Eggman finds this robot. I think his name's Emerald or something like that. And basically, how you progress through the game is you control the robot, and he has amnesia pretty much, and he learns fighting moves based on fighting Sonic and his friends, like as they train him and stuff. So you can kind of customize him to get like Shadow's move where he turns like invisible and then explodes through a barrier, or you can get Tails' gun or something. You have to learn all these moves and give them to the robot. But I just remember the graphics look really good for this game. And it was just fun. I looked at there's only 8 playable characters, but it felt like there was a lot more at the time. But I just remember really liking this game a lot.
It looks so good. The box art just looks so hype.
Which one was it called again? Sonic.
It's
Battle.
Sonic Battle on Game Boy Advance.
Sonic and Shadow punching
Yep.
each other. Yeah, this looks good. I gotta try this out. I'm surprised you played it because I know you said you liked Sonic, but you don't seem like a big Sonic person.
No, I kind of dipped. I was bigger into it when I was younger, then I kind of dipped out. Now I'm like getting kind of back into Sonic again now.
Yes, more Sonic the better.
Yeah, I figured Connor especially because I know Parrott you love Sonic, but Connor likes the fighting games. So I
I
figured a
do.
Game Boy Advance 2D fighting game. The sprites alone look really good.
That would be interesting to try for sure.
So
Yeah,
my number 7 is another newer game and that is The Order 1886. It has a 63 on Metacritic.
Oh.
oh yeah, this is a classic one.
Yeah, very divisive game. Most people think this game is really awful, but with the caveat that I bought this also for $5, I thought it was pretty fun. It was short, and I get that complaint for when it was a brand new game. It was $60 and it's like 4 hours long, but for $5, you know, I wasn't too worried about getting a lot of time out of it.
Yeah. And now we're at the point where you have like 60-hour releases every week. And it's like, you know what? Maybe the 4-hour games had something right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So the Order plays like a poor man's Gears of War, to put it nicely, but I feel like it does have like a really cool setting, and I love the werewolf The werewolf enemies, I do love horror, so that was pretty appealing, and like the steampunk style. And was I was actually pretty interested in the story, and I was actually a little disappointed when it ended, and it's kind of not necessarily a cliffhanger, but it's pretty open ended. I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen next? But I'm never gonna find out.
Yeah. I always thought that game looked really gorgeous, but
It
I
does.
heard,
It still does.
yeah, I heard that it's like locked to 24 frames per second or something, which for an action game is just not something I ever want to go and deal with.
Yeah, like I said, poor man's Gears of War, not Gears of War, very poor man's Gears of War.
I feel like if that game came out now, though, people would love it just because they're not as concerned about how long games are. Kind of like what you were saying before, like a good 5 to 10 hour experience, people love.
If they put out a remastered forward of it or like port of it, that'd probably actually do pretty well.
So we just need another one, and then we need the order. The Sir Galahad needs to be in PlayStation All Stars too.
Yep. Another week we get to mention PlayStation All Stars.
Radix should
It's
be
gonna
proud.
mention it every week until it happens. So
Might
forever.
as well. We don't have that magic of speaking things into existence.
Not yet.
All right. So my number 7, which Moki shared with me, is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team, which had an average of 64 between the Game Boy and the DS versions. So that includes Blue Rescue Team.
This
And,
one is crazy to me. When he sent that on the list, I had no idea this game would be that low.
yeah,
I've seen people talk about it so much. I just assumed it was a higher rated thing.
yeah. I think it got a lot of flack for being. I mean, it's essentially a Pokemon reskin of an obscure dungeon crawling game from that was popular in Japan.
Is it like Sheeran the Wanderer? Was that it?
No, I can't
No.
remember the name of the game it's based off of. It has a somewhat generic name, so it's kind of hard to remember it. But it's if you're comparing it to the mainline Pokemon games, Mystery Dungeon, especially the first iteration, was a very bare bones feeling kind of experience. No, that's not even the right word. It was a very raw feeling game. Like a lot of systems didn't have the kind of polish you would expect from a Pokemon game. Whereas, like, okay, it's going to highlight this thing, but just draws like a straight line square. There's no extra frills to it, or there's lots of grids all over the place and just other things. Since it's a lot of dynamic and it was an early roguelite type game too. So there's a lot of randomly generated stuff even in the map layout. So sometimes things just go terribly. It's just from the get go and there's nothing you can do about it. So I can understand why a lot of people probably were not getting what they expected. But I loved the depth of the game, and the story stuff actually was pretty polished and surprisingly good. Like there was actually some emotional moments in the game, which is the last thing you expect from a Pokemon title.
Right. Did you get the remake or remasters that they did? Didn't they do them on Switch?
Yeah, they did the remasters. I'm going to get to those eventually. I've just had too much other stuff on my plate.
Yeah, that's a game I will probably try at some point. I've always been curious about it, but yeah, I'm just shocked it was eligible for this based off everything I've heard.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too.
No Nintendo bump for you.
So how about we move to our number 6 then, Straw?
All right, so my number 6, I think this is my lowest rated game, coming in at 53
Ooh,
on Metacritic. And the user
Very
score
low.
isn't much better, it's 6.5. And I fully admit this game has tons of issues, but as a kid, I loved it. And I want to play it again just to see if I can actually beat it because I couldn't beat it when I was younger. And it is Scooby Doo Classic Creep Capers on N64.
Huh. Is that
Now,
kind of an adventure game like the later ones on PS2?
yeah, it is. Like you pretty much go around and try to solve the mysteries. The thing that this game is famous for is the camera is horrendous because when you switch scenes, you keep moving in the direction that you were going. Like it doesn't adjust to where you were moving, so you usually run into things. The hit detection is also horrible. There's like a famous spot in the museum, because they basically go through 3 episodes of the show and then have an original one for the last mystery. But it's the What a Night for a Night, and you're in the museum and the dinosaurs like move around, and if you get hit you get scared, and the camera movement and you trying to dodge them, you always get hit and pretty much die.
Oh,
So it is a
jeez.
tough game. It's a buggy mess, but I just like this game so much. Like, I loved it as a kid. I was too scared to beat it actually, because like the last mission for some reason was too hard for me. But I'm gonna have to go back and see if it's as bad as it is, because it's funny because the Game Boy Color version has way better reviews than the N64 version does.
Yeah,
But
was the age where the Game Boy versions were pretty
yeah,
much
just
different games
better.
entirely.
It's funny though, because critics mostly did not like Scooby Doo games. Even like I want to play was it Night of 100 Frights, which is one
Yeah.
of the famous Scooby Doo games for being the favorite, and it's still a 69 on Metacritic. They just don't like Scooby Doo games. And I
No,
also
I
really
think they
like
give it
the
the perfect score.
yeah, that's true. I really like the Super Nintendo version too, but obviously that wasn't eligible. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and play this one again and see if it really was as bad as I can remember. I'm sure with save states will make it more playable, but it was pretty rough.
It's not a good sign when you're because normally your nostalgic look back on a game makes it seem better, but if it's already bad in your mind, I'm a little worried of what it's going to be like when you play it.
Uh,
It's bad, but I still loved it. So
So my number 6 is another free to play mess, and that is Pokemon Quest, which has a 64 on Metacritic.
was
oh,
that the MOBA?
is
This
that
is
that blocky
no,
one?
this is yeah. So all the Pokemon in this game are cubes, and pretty
Oh
much you
yeah.
just play the levels, play quote unquote, where the Pokemon just like walk through the level and you press their action buttons and just click on them to make them do their special attacks, and then wait for the cooldowns to come back and then just do that. And you just grind levels over and over again until your Pokemon are strong enough to continue to the next levels.
Yeah, I booted that one up, did about 5 seconds of it, and I went, you know what? I think I'm good.
Yeah, it's not that great. But my girlfriend and I, we both downloaded this for some reason, and then we both played a lot of it, and we both finished it.
Once again, once you make this stuff co-op, everything becomes permissible.
Yeah, except it wasn't co-op. We just were both playing it.
Same
It's
thing.
just yeah,
Might,
we just like
yeah, might
talking
as well.
about it. I really did play a lot of this game. I played enough of it to I think I had every Pokemon except 2. So I got my free money's worth out of this.
Good job, Parrot.
I'm not proud of it, but it happened.
Yeah, I'm not ever gonna play this game. I'm sorry.
No, it's not good. I'm not. This is not. Like we said at the beginning, some of them you think there are no flaws, but this one I totally admit it's not very good. But look at this game. It is cool. I like the art style with the cubes.
It had potential. That's why I gave it a try, but
Yeah,
they immediately squandered it on me because I did not like that style of game.
yeah. So this game has a cool art style. I love the cubes, but just look at that, and that has a 64, and then really think like, is Knack really worse than this? I just don't think that is true.
I don't
That's
think so.
that's gonna be your parrot's lifestyle advice to everyone. Is this worse than Knack?
Yeah,
Really?
Really?
It's
So
it's
really
not.
worse
It's
than
not.
Knack? Well, I have something that's better than Knack. It came in at 67, and it's Long Live the Queen.
Oh, I played this.
Yeah, this is one that goes in the camp of games that aren't bad, but are very obscure and underrated. Well, maybe underrated is not the right word because it's very niche. You play, I don't know what your perspective is, but anyways, the point of the game is to keep the princess alive until she's trained and old enough to actually rule the kingdom herself. And it's brutally hard because everything is trying to kill her. You go and do all these innocuous stuff, and it's like, whoops, there was a snake in that. Whoops, that was actually Assassin's plot. Whoops,
Hmm.
that killed you. So there's like 100 ways to die in the game, but it more or less plays out kind of like a life sim text adventure sort of thing, where it's like, okay, pick out what you're going to do today, pick where she's going to study today, and then some events will pop up and you make a choice of how you're going to react to them, and you just go through a series of those hoping that you made the right decisions for her to not die. And there's several ways you can live, and there's several hundred more ways that you can die. So
Honestly,
Yeah,
this sounds pretty fun.
It
yeah, I
is.
remember playing this. I forgot I even have this game on Steam, but because I played it for a few hours and I just kept dying over and over again. I'm like, I don't know what to do, so I just gave up at that point.
Yeah. There's one I discovered through a YouTube series back in the day from what, Extra Credits. Yeah, that's what it was. They had a series of games you might not have tried, and they were just like, "Well, we don't promise you're gonna like it, but it's cool."
I might have to look that one up. That's one of the few that we've talked about today that I'm like, yeah, that does sound pretty appealing.
It wasn't very expensive either, I don't
Yeah,
think.
it's cheap, easy to pick up. It's on Steam. Probably play on the Steam Deck just fine.
Yeah.
If it's on the Steam Deck, I'm willing to try it. That's where I'm at this point.
Yep. Every once in a while, I boot it back up and see if I can actually win.
And you have not.
I don't think no, I don't think I ever have. I
Uh-oh.
refuse to look up a guide. It's one
Yeah,
of
it's
those games where,
hard.
yeah, if you look up a guide to win, you'll win easily. And so it's just like, okay,
Not as fun.
not doing
Yeah.
that.
Failing is the part of the fun.
Yep.
All right, so my number 5 is I actually played this last year, and I did talk about it in the Discord some. It has a 66 on Metacritic and an 8.3 user score because it's pretty good. It's Duel Masters, the PS2 game. And the funny thing about this game, so I grew up playing the card game Duel Masters when I was younger, so that's why I ended up getting this game.
And this is not Yu-Gi-Oh.
No, this is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Like this is poor man's Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time, so it plays a little different than Yu-Gi-Oh! But for some reason, my parents didn't let me get Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, but they let me get Duel Master cards instead. So
That's so
but
weird.
anyway, the PlayStation 2 game is funny because the actual gameplay is really good. Like it's the card game, so and the graphics are good for the monsters and like the special effects. But the character designs and the opening cut and the actual cutscenes look like they were made in Microsoft Paint. They're so bad. And these
Pizza
also
Tower
have
before was cool.
oh yeah, because like the characters are just very colorful. Like they just look like they're ripped right off and colored in Microsoft Paint. Also, some of the worst voice acting in any video game. It is horrendously bad.
It reminds me of Path of Radiance had that problem a bit on the
Yep.
cutscenes. I was glad the rest of it wasn't voiced.
So yeah, check this out if you're a fan of the series, or you just want to see a game with Microsoft Paint cutscenes and horrible voice acting.
I'm kind of interested. I've never played Duel Masters. For some reason, I think in my head, I always just thought it was the same thing as Yu-Gi-Oh, just a different name. I don't know why I would have ever thought that, but yeah, I mean, I do love card games, so I'm kind of interested just to see what the heck it is.
I think isn't there like a subtitle or a tagline for Yu-Gi-Oh that involves the word duel?
Yeah,
It's time to duel.
Yeah,
there's
and
like
then there's
I know there's
that.
like Yu-Gi-Oh Duel Links is a game.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that.
so the difference between this game, there is there is like the monsters can't really attack and defend. They either are shield types or attack types. But the main goal is to break like 5 shields and for each player, and then the last attack attacks the player directly, and then you win. But you have different monsters that, like I said, can attack, and then depending what type of element you use, there's some that defend. Like fire and nature are all pure attack. They don't really have any defense. Where fire is all about quick attacks, nature's about like getting mana to summon the monsters. Where water and light have lots of defense, and then darkness sacrifices their monsters a lot. So like I said, I had tons of fun playing it actually.
Yeah, I think I maybe had a couple of these cards. Like my grandmother maybe bought them for me, thinking they were Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which I was into. Maybe that's why it sounds so familiar.
That's
And the
funny.
like I looked it up,
Yeah,
and the card backs look pretty familiar too. But I definitely did not know how to play it if I
Yeah.
had these.
yeah. I had lots of trading card games that I just like actual physical trading cards, and I was just like, wow, these are neat to look at. I refused to ever figure out how the actual
Yeah,
game was played.
yep, same. I don't know about you two, but I know around here at least, I would go to like the mall with my parents, and at the dollar store they would sell, quote unquote Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Do they do that near you? And they were just so there was like $1 for like 50 of them, and they were not really Yu-Gi-Oh cards. They were just like printed versions of Yu-Gi-Oh cards with like misspellings and slightly different images, so they wouldn't be copyright. I
I
just had
saw a
like thousands of these.
I saw a few of those kinds of things float around, but no, I always I never actually saw any of those things on
Oh yeah.
store shelves.
I had so many of them. I remember they were like always like slightly bent and like kind of sticky, like kind of sticky. They just always stuck to each other. Really good stuff. So we already talked about my number 5, the legendary GameCube title Tarzan Untamed. So instead, I'll read off a couple of the Discord user submissions. So Moki wrote in the game Legendary, Pokemon
Yeah.
Channel, which I also loved playing this game. I don't know if I feel like playing is maybe a strong word, but I also enjoyed watching Pikachu watch TV. And he wrote in Amazing Island and The Incredibles Rise of the Underminer.
Yeah, The
I've heard about
Incredibles Rise of the Underminer I played as a kid too. That was fun to play with another person, I remember.
that one. Actually looked like it was pretty fun.
I remember having the first Incredibles game, I believe it was. I remember my brother would play it and he liked it. I think I'm sure that's a different game, but I could be wrong. And then Frog wrote in with Zombie U, Crystar, I don't know how to say this, Euden Chronicles Rising,
Auden.
Yep.
Euden Chronicle Rising, and then a game called Dragon Marked for Death. Zombie U is a game I always was actually curious to try. As one of one of like the 15 Wii U owners in the world at the time, I'm surprised I didn't have it just to play it.
That was one where I was like, you know what? I've run the gauntlet with Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 shortly before that, so I was just like, yeah, I don't need another zombie game.
It kind of seems like it would be up my alley, so maybe I'll try it one day just to
It
be
does sound
morbidly
interesting.
curious. All right, so I'll read the rest of the Discord submissions on my next turn because we also talked about my number 4. So Connor, if you want to hit us with your number 5.
My number 5 is another game that I think was incredible, and I don't understand why no one seems to be able to comprehend this. Worms Ultimate Mayhem. That's the 3D one.
Ooh, I've seen the Worms games, but I've never actually played them.
This one's, I think, the only 3D one. There's a few different ports of it. The version I played was the PC. I think it was like Worms 3D on one thing. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I love the Worms games in general just because they are so chaotic and so hilarious to play with your friends. They're just like, here's all these ridiculous weapons, use them to blow each other up, and whoops, you accidentally blew yourself up because they're difficult to aim. The movement mechanics are like intentionally obtuse, where you can crawl around like a little worm and then you can jump with two different versions by either single tapping it to do a straight jump or like a little arc jump forward, or double tapping it to do a backflip with more height. But you'll also bounce off of walls and ceilings if you hit them wrong. So you might think, oh, I can clear this jump, go for it, and then just barely nick the ceiling and then launch yourself straight into the water and die. So there was a lot of accidentally killing yourself when you're trying to take your turn, which just further adds to the chaos. That's Worms all around. Ultimate Mayhem then took that into full 3D, which also includes the terrain destruction that the series was known for. So it just cranked all of the crazy weapons up to 11. It's just like now you have a third dimension to think about everything with, and it was incredible. I love it.
Yeah, I've never played any of the Worms games. They
Wow,
always seem pretty fun though.
this is shocking to me, and we will have to find a time to pull up one of them online and play.
Yeah, there is one on PlayStation. I know I have it downloaded because once again, like Alex pointed out that every episode I mentioned there's a game Alexis made me download to try, and this is one of them. But I didn't happen to try it. I downloaded it and I never actually played it.
Yeah, great series. I wanted to play it. Worms Ultimate Mayhem, probably the best of all of them, which just shows you how wrong games critics are.
Mm, it hurts.
Hurts them. I feel good.
All right, so my number 4. Now, I was shocked at how low this game was. It is a 57 on Metacritic. The user score is a 7.9, but it is Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut on GameCube.
That one almost made it to my list.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite games ever. I didn't put it on my list because I don't think the original Sonic Adventure is that low. So I'm like, I just refuse to believe that this could be possible.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this is the one I played originally because I didn't have a Dreamcast. So, but I was still like this. I really like this game too. Now I like two more, but I do like one a lot, and I couldn't believe that it had a 57. That just shocked me because I'm like, this game wasn't that bad. It was
yeah.
good. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna play the original Sonic Adventure, or probably I'll probably play the DX version when we play it later this year for the Collectathon Club. So we will talk more about it then, I'm sure. But yeah, it definitely should not be this low on this list. It's a crime, frankly.
Like, I can get some of the issues with the game. It's certainly not like they executed everything perfectly, but it was so creative at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
frankly, it's just a nostalgic masterpiece in my mind.
Wow. Yeah. You know, I might not have even looked this one up because I didn't even ever think that it would be this low, or this would probably be my number one. Because yeah, they don't even have a Metacritic for the Dreamcast version
I,
of
I,
Sonic Adventure. At least I can find.
yeah, I'm kind of with Parrott, where since it was the DX version, not the Dreamcast, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to refuse to accept that this is rated
Yeah,
so low
I
and
love
not
this
put it on
game.
my list.
I would play this all the time. I actually had a Dreamcast. My grandma bought me one
Say
just for that. This is the only game I owned was the original Sonic
Wow.
Adventure. That's all I had on it, and I would just play that over and over. I would just run around the open world. I loved the villain Chaos.
Yeah,
yeah,
Right, that was
Chaos
in
was
the
so
the
cool.
water
yeah, he's
guy. He was so
so
cool.
cool.
I mean, and obviously playing as Big the Cat is so good.
Ugh. I
Okay,
just loved
that part's a little rough, but you know,
running around
otherwise
this.
it's all good.
Yeah, running around the city was so cool. My brother too loved it even more than me. He liked it all the missions after like you beat the game. I never did that, but it was just so fun to like switch and run around, be like among the real world half the
Yeah,
time was funny.
and the lack of cohesiveness between the real world elements and the Sonic world elements was kind of made it even more charming than the second game, where everything was more cohesive. There,
Yeah,
it's
you
just
just like
like,
you're just running around this huge open world, and then you walk into a room, and then you just
yeah,
all of a sudden you're this huge Sonic level, just like out of nowhere.
it made everything much more fascinating to run around and explore. And there was more exploration to do. It was an actual adventure game with Sonic. It's cool.
Yeah, I love that game so much. I don't know if I like. I think I like two slightly better also, but parts of like the open area parts of one is what I really like about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
Sonic Adventure 2 doesn't have any sort of open world.
I think
No,
2 is probably a better Sonic game, but the first one is a really cool adventure game.
I really did hate Big's section though.
Yeah, it's not very good. And the robot's not that great either. He's okay, but you know, I could kind of do without either of those. As I mentioned before, my number four was the Burger King trilogy, which we already talked about. So I'm going to read up the last of our submissions. So our city wrote in with quite a few games I've never heard of. He wrote he wrote in with Edge of Eternity.
Eternity is on my list to play. I've heard decent things about it, so
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of that one. Or if I have, you know, I forgot about it.
it's a JRPG.
Gotcha. They wrote Vanguard Bandits, Orphan Shion of Sorcery, Sands of Destruction. Then he also wrote in with a couple games I have heard of. Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13, and Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles.
I'm just going to point out real quick, just because I have to, that you pronounced Scion as Shion, and that was funny to me.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of for some reason I was thinking of what's her face? Isn't that the character in Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, it is.
I overthought. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the character Shion. I don't even remember what she did or who she was or what she looked like.
Part of Organization 13.
How could I forget? How could I forget that? Man, that worries me that that's so in my brain. That's how I pronounce it at this point.
Sean would be proud of you though.
Yeah, I'm not proud of me because I don't even like it very much. But
Now
so you,
Sean is sad.
so
You
you
should feel bad.
I'm sorry, Sean. I personally apologize. I like Roxas. That's about it. But I remember you two said that you were surprised that East 1 and 2 was on here.
I am. I thought those games, like, anyone who's reviewing these 1 and 2 Chronicles, and like, what did they just completely forget the fact that those were originally games from the 80s or something? It's like, yeah, you get, like, they're still good, even as PSP games, they're still cool. But like, really, those are interesting. They're cool. I
Yeah,
don't know.
reviewers just have weird things sometimes. They have weird nitpicks, I guess.
So we also had some write-ins from Addie, who wrote in The Godfather 2, which I had never played that one. I played The Godfather, the game, on 360, which I actually really liked. I never played The Godfather 2. And he wrote in Manhunt 2, which is another game that I also really liked on PS2. I thought both of those Manhunt games were fun, and I don't know why Manhunt 2 would be rated so low. I remember it was one of those games that was originally going to have an AO rating, so they had
Oh
to
yeah,
drastically change like the visuals of the game. So whenever you actually killed somebody, the screen got all distorted, so you couldn't see what was going on. So that maybe is part of it.
that's the only thing I know about that series was seeing all the news articles about like, oh, Manhunt 2's AO rating is going to get censored.
Yeah, I did play it. I played both of them. And then Addy also wrote in, I think he misunderstood the rules. He wrote in Dark Pictures Little Hope, which is actually just a terrible game. I'm not sure why he put it in here. And then his number one choice was also a game that Sam wrote in about, which was Deadly Premonition, which is a game that I've always wanted to try because it just seems so weird.
Yeah, people
Yeah,
love that game. I heard the sequel wasn't as good, but people love the original.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
game that maybe one day I'll try. It just seems like it has such an interesting, unique vibe.
that's on my list to hit as well.
And then to round it all up, Sam wrote in with, I just chose a few of Sam's, and he wrote in with Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, Lollipop Chainsaw, Killer is Dead, and then two games that I, just like I said with Sonic, I didn't even think to look these up that they'd be this low. Medieval, the PS4 remake I saw was at a below a 60, below a 70. I'm not even sure about the PS1 version. And then Star Fox Assault on GameCube, which is another game I think we talked about it literally last episode, but I played that
Yeah, I
game a
think we
lot.
did.
Yeah, we did, and I forgot. I didn't even think to check that. What was that one ranked?
A lot of Suda 51 on
Yeah, he likes the
Sam's list.
He likes the hack and slash.
I'm just surprised that all three of those were. I mean, Travis Strikes Again, I think, was that one I understand, or was it like a spin off or something? So, sure. But Killer is Dead and Lollipop Chainsaw were both lower than 70.
Yeah, that surprised me. Star Fox Assault had a 67.
Wow.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that game.
Me too. Another head scratcher, I guess.
Yeah, and Sam has another game, one more game that I was going to mention, but it will come up later on in one of our lists. But before that, we'll get to Connor's number 4.
So, my number 4, may it rest in peace, is no longer with us. And that is one of the greatest crimes that were committed in the 2010s. And that is Rise of Incarnates, which was a 67, and I played it on PC, which I think Steam was the only place to get it. It's a full 3D team based fighter. And when I say full 3D, I mean you're flying around in the arenas, not just walking. There's a whole lock on system to manage the camera and everything like that. And my friends and I had a blast with this game for a few months. And then it was unceremoniously and completely undeservedly shut down because there was not enough of a player base in the Western sphere for it to continue. So if you want to play it, you have to go to some obscure arcade in Japan still.
That's too
And
bad.
I'm very salty about this because it was a wonderful team-based fighting game and one of the only like not just swap out team-based fighting games, but like everyone's in the arena all battling. It was sick. It was dope. I loved it.
It does. I'm looking up a video. I had never heard of this before, and it does look really cool. It seems very up your alley.
Yeah, it was kind of like those 3D mech games, like say, what was that one from Hideo Kojima?
Oh,
Oh,
front
Zone of the
mission.
Enders.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Zone of
Zone
the
of the
Enders.
Enders. That's it.
It kind of looks like one of those type of games, but instead of it being mechs shooting each other, you're a bunch of martial artists and things like that kicking the crap out of each other. I imagine those Dragon Ball Z fighting games are actually
Yeah,
really
I was
close.
gonna ask if it's like Budokai Tenkaichi because
that is
I
exactly what
read.
I pictured too.
It probably is a poor man's Budokai Tenkaichi, but I have never played that series.
looking at it, I would say it's probably more than a poor man's because those games were 1v1, so this is definitely a little, has a lot of similar, like, has some similarities looking at it to those games, but it seems pretty unique.
Yeah, it was cool, and I cry every day.
If only you could bring it back. That
Right.
is sad when a multiplayer game like that is just gone,
Just taken.
taken from you too soon.
Yep.
My number 3. I could have did a couple games from this series because it makes me really mad because this series really got destroyed by critics as it went on because they got fatigued with it, even though the games I feel like got better for the most part. And that is Mega Man Battle Network 6, Cybeast Gregar specifically. And it has a 62 on Metacritic, but the user score is 8.5. So the Mega Man Battle Network games, I really love this series. And starting with 3, they started releasing 2 versions, kind of like Pokemon, and then allowing just different chips and stuff on each version. And they started coming out every year, so I think critics really got fatigued with it. But 6 is probably my third favorite one. I like 3, I think is my favorite, and then 5, and then it's 6. But they really like the stories progress, and this is like the ending of the series. Like at the end of it all, this is where you see what happens with Lan, who's the main character, and then his friends and all that. So this was a pretty special one. And the fact that it's so low is annoying because the gameplay just gets pretty much better with each installment, I would say. It has such a unique combat system that I think it was, what's that game? It came out on Steam. It was like One Step from Eden or something is the only
Oh
other
yeah, that one.
series that's kind of copied the combat because
I
it's like you're
played
on a
that.
grid, but you can freely move around and then you use different chips like after a time. But the good thing is the collection's coming out here. It'll be out by the time you guys hear this, and you'll be able to play all the games again. But this was one of my favorite series on Game Boy Advance, and I would get them. My brother and I started getting them with 5 and 6. We'd each get different versions, then we'd battle each other and stuff. But yeah, I really like this series, and I'm glad the collection's coming back because they are criminally underrated games, I feel like.
That was a funny series for me when I was a kid because I never played any of the original Mega Man games or those, but I knew a kid who had the Battle Network games on his Game Boy Advance, and it just fascinated me because I was like, what, 6, 7 years old. He was showing me that. And I was like, I have not played Mega Man, but that does not look like Mega Man. So why is it called Mega Man?
Yeah.
That's funny because that's the exact experience I had with it too. I'd never played any Mega Man games, and I just had a friend that was really into these, and I would watch him play a little bit. He had the Game Boy Advance TV attachment or whatever on his GameCube, and he would play
Oh,
these.
yeah.
We had I had not a Game Boy Advance attachment, but my dad modded my Game Boy Advance to plug in through with an AV cable.
It's funny.
Badass.
Yeah, it's funny how I discovered this series because I really wasn't into the Mega Man games at all, and I just randomly picked this one, Mega Man Battle Network 3 Blue at GameStop randomly. They had it for like $14. I'm like, why not? And then I ended up really liking the series. And they ended up being worth a lot of money, and I sold one of the complete in box versions for over $200. So there's that.
Oh my gosh, I did not expect
So
that.
take that, critics who gave it a 62.
uh,
So that brings us to my number 3, which is a game I talked about on our episode with Rainick we did a couple months ago, and that is the modern Mutant Football League game.
Oh yes.
So this game has an average score of a 69.
nice.
The PS4 version has like a 62 for some reason, while the other versions are 71s. I'm not sure why.
Oh.
And the Switch version didn't even have a review, but so it is in the range. And this is a game I mentioned. I won't talk about it too much because I talked about it on that episode quite a bit. But this is a game I played for probably like 50 plus hours. And it's just a football game that also involves murder and saw blades and flamethrowers and punching people till they explode and bombs. And it's played with mutants and aliens and robots, and it's a good time.
So a real sport.
Yeah, like a football, but turned way more fun.
Yeah, more legitimate.
Yeah.
Yes, and especially since one of the core elements of the game is cheating without getting caught. I mean, what could get better than that?
Isn't there a new one coming out too?
Yeah, there's. I remember they announced Mutant Football League 2, but I haven't heard anything about it since then. But so there must be. It must have its fans if they're making
Must
another
have,
one.
yeah, must have an audience.
Must be more than just me. And apparently, I was reading that they still release DLC for this game. So yeah, there are people out there playing. There can't be that many, you would think, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a lot of people like me.
Yep. Well, when you only got like 3 or 4 people working on a game or a small team, you can justify having smaller player bases.
Yep, that is true. And also, like arcade football is not a very well populated
Right.
niche. It's either
Yeah.
Madden for simulation, and then there's nothing really.
Yeah.
So it kind of would make sense that this like a game like this would have its niche.
It's always fascinating watching from a distance as like that entire subgenres of sports games was just like starved out, left to die.
I know. Now we miss those arcadey ones like the NFL and NBA Street
Yep.
games.
Also, shout out. I was gonna put it on the list, but it had no reviews, so I didn't know what to make of that. And that was Backyard Basketball on PS2. There were no reviews out there at all
Yes.
for it, so I'm like, I
That's
assume that's bad, but
incredible.
I don't know it's bad, so I won't put it on the list. But I just want to shout that out
I
here.
even I heard of the backyard basketball and all those games, so I'm
Yeah.
Backyard
amazed
basketball,
too.
baseball, football. I played all those.
Yeah, I still play Backyard Basketball. I booted it up the other day on my Steam Deck in bed before I went to
Incredible.
bed, and I played a nice little game. Dropped 125 points as Pete Wheeler in 10 minutes or whatever it was, and good
Call it
time.
a
Good
night.
time. Like days work for Pete Wheeler.
All right. So my number 3 is another who pick, which is the indie game The Yog on Steam. I'm surprised this one has a Metacritic, to be honest.
I have
Like,
no idea what this even could be.
that's how obscure or kind of obscure this is. It's a local multiplayer choose your own adventure game. I would say I could say visual novel, but really it's more like a choose your own adventure. You
Interesting.
you and up to 3 other people pick a character, and then there's about 6, well, there's like 7 in-game days that you go through before this great disaster called the Yog hits the city. But until then, you're just going about your life saying like, oh, I'm going to go to the library today, and then you pick what you do at the library. And once everyone's picked what they're doing, it plays out events to say what happened while you were there, and then you get attribute points based on what happened. And so then further events will then be affected by which attribute points you have. And then at the end, when the disaster hits, everyone decides what they're going to do in response. And then if you picked well based on your attributes, you either end up with a happy ending where you did good, like you helped everyone get survive, or oh, you made a bunch of meals for people. Or if you pick wrong and have terrible stats or some combination of the two, it'll be like, oh, you turned into a drunk with PTSD and you ended up face down in a ditch and died. So the real only interactivity between it though is that like if one player picks a location, no one else can pick that location. And then there's certain events which can do things like, oh, yeah, you ended up provoking a bunch of vampires in this area, and now that region of the city is destroyed, and now no one can pick it.
This sounds
Nice.
really interesting. Is it long? Is it like a really
No,
short game that you're supposed to
it's
play in one
like
sitting?
it's like 10 to 15 minutes per session. So you
Okay.
just sit down, play a couple sessions, and then put it away. It's just it's a nice little quaint time passer. It's really entertaining, very funny.
Yeah, I want to look into this one, just like that other one you were talking about. It kind of sounds almost similar.
Yeah. YAWHG, the Yog.
It's definitely the most random game on the list. I would say. I definitely have never heard of that. I'd be curious if anybody else has when they listen to this.
Yeah, I no promises, but I might have actually put together a prototype of doing my own version of this at some point, so we can maybe get this as a real genre with more games.
Interesting.
But I got other stuff to work on first.
Does sound like a pretty neat idea. It
I
sounds like
love
a
it.
cool concept.
That's 66 people with no taste.
Critics.
At least they tried.
All right. Well, my number 2 was another one that barely made the list. It had a 69, and
Nice.
I was shocked that this game was on the list because I'm like, how? Why? And this game is Mario Party 5 on GameCube. And I'm thinking it again, it's another thing where the critics just got tired of Mario Party and they didn't realize what they had at the time because then Mario Party got really bad after the GameCube games
Yeah.
for a while. But Mario Party 5, I don't know if it's my favorite one on GameCube. It's between 6 and 5 for me. They're both really good, but all of them are good Mario Party games. 7's my least favorite, but they're all still pretty good. And the fact that this is below a 7 is ridiculous because it has great mini games. I remember playing, they had a mode where you like customized different cars and you would like go out and battle them against each other. And I played that so much. But yeah, Mario Party 5, one of the better Mario parties. So it's just a shame that it's ranked so low because it's better than that. It's better than a 7.
But is it better than Knack?
Yes.
So controversially here, I've also played Mario Party 5, and I hate this game. So I can see
What?
why it is below a 7.
What didn't you like about it? The
I don't
capsules?
know. This is the game that, yes, the capsules actually is what it is, because this is the game that made me stop liking to play Mario Party with everybody, because they would come over my house and we would boot up, because this was like after college. I was the first one in my group to buy a house, so everybody would come here to hang out, and we'd
Mm-hmm.
pull out the GameCube, we play Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, etc. But then they'd always want to play Mario Party, and the only one I owned was 5, and I just grew to really not like this game the more we kept playing it. The
Yeah, that's
capsules are so slow. It makes the games like double in length because everybody's got to read the instructions and then choose the items and throw the items and wait for all the animations. It just makes the game take forever. And I already wouldn't say I love Mario Party, so making the game take super long is not that appealing to me.
so Mario Party 5 is to you what Catan is to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's
So
interesting because I think that is the only one that used the capsules, so maybe that is why it was bad. I don't I kind of like the randomness of the capsules. That's why I liked that one too. But they also did remove Donkey Kong as a playable character in this one, which
yeah,
was annoying.
that's pretty
Well,
bad.
might as well throw out the game for that.
I just like you just mentioning the capsules like brings me back. It's like a flashback.
Trigger,
I could just like
trigger.
picture his stupid noise, like and it spits him out at you. It's like, oh my god, go faster! Shut up! Just shut up!
I like that feature in one of the newer Mario parties where you can spam stickers on the edges of the screen.
Oh yes,
So
it's so
Yes,
fun.
yes,
half of the metagame is spamming stickers so they can't see properly.
Mario Party. Parrot and I played some, or we played a couple matches
of
with Ed
yes,
and Poot. That was a fun time, even though I got destroyed the first match at least.
yeah. I played, and it was the same thing. It always happens to me in Mario Party. I remember like going into turn 5, I was like, I had 4 stars and no one else had any, and I somehow came in third, and it's just like okay. So I also have I do have a bias against Mario Party, so I'm not gonna pretend that you know, that I think Mario Party 5 is, atrociously worse than all the other ones. I just don't really like any of them that much. But the capsules, man, the
I
capsules.
love me some Mario Party.
So my number 2 is a game that a lot of people also hate, but I played a lot of hours, and that is Uncharted Fight for Fortune on PlayStation Vita. It has a 67 Metacritic, and this is a trading card battle game with the Uncharted characters. I'm
Does
not
Radic
sure.
does Radic like this game?
No, he also doesn't
Oh
like it.
wow. Okay.
Wow.
Makes me mad. He should like
What's,
this game.
It's
what's it with the
Uncharted.
Yeah, I
with
know.
the PlayStation Portable making all these card game versions of these very not card game related games, like Metal Gear Acid or whatever it
Metal
was?
Gear Acid.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that. I've never played that. I
Why?
kind of want to. I just love card games. So I don't know why. I just had this on Vita and I played the whole campaign. I got 5 stars in every mission, which involved you playing each mission 5 times, I'm pretty sure. And then I got all the DLC and I made it through most of that. I'm not really sure why I like this card game more than others, but I just played a lot of it. it was kind of like typical card game where you had your cards and they had their abilities and they fought each other. But there was also like I know there was a part of the game where you could bank treasure on your characters, and if those characters got kills, you'd get more money to buy new things to become more powerful in the game. But yeah, I don't think and I can't imagine that many people love this game or play it. Just
I'm
me.
I'm still just trying to figure out why, who, how,
I
what.
don't know. And what's really funny is one of the features where the cards got more powerful if you had the proper trophies in the Uncharted game on Vita.
Incredible.
Golden
Golden
Fist. Like
Okay,
you
Fist.
that's
unlock the right
hilarious.
trophy, the cards would get better. Pretty
That's
awesome.
That makes it better, I will say.
that's
Yep.
actually a really creative idea.
It's pretty funny. I know, like right now, the only trophy I don't have in the base game is play a game online or play a game against an opponent or something. I just need to one day meet Radic in
Yeah, I
person,
was
and I
gonna
can
say you
play.
gotta get Radic to play it.
Yep, I can play him in ad hoc. I need it. But yeah, I love
Incredible.
that game. I kind of want to go play it when I go when we're done recording.
That card game, Brain Rot, is hard. It's good. It runs deep with you.
It does. I'll stop playing Marvel Snap for a couple days to play Uncharted Fight for Fortune
Oh my gosh.
against
Well,
bots.
I respect it. I don't understand it, but I'll respect it.
You don't have to respect it. It's okay.
All right, then.
Number two is apparently our slot for games
Yeah, I
that
guess
our
so.
co-hosts don't like. So what's yours, Connor? What are we gonna hate?
Well, it depends on whether or not you guys have played it. Because if you have, I can easily see it fitting into the theme. Because my number 2 is Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy Remastered.
I know about this game, but I have not played it.
It's been on my list to try, even though I don't assume it's gonna be good.
Yes. So I ended up playing. I had known about the Quantum Dream games or Quantic Dream. Can't remember how to say it. I've known about their games for a long time, and I was always really interested in trying them out. So, and when I inevitably did, went ahead and decided, you know what, I'll start with Indigo Prophecy. The oldest one. We'll see how this goes. Oh boy, howdy!
Not very
I
good.
no, it's incredible. It's so B movie tier schlock, but it's sometimes legitimately amazing. And then in the last act of the game, okay, maybe not legitimately amazing. It's legitimately super interesting. Lots of cool stuff is happening. It's a cinematic adventure, so gameplay wise, it's like Addy's type of dream game. But the last act just decides, you know what? Let's just make this into a Dragon Ball Z.
Oh,
And I'm not going to
Okay.
explain any more than that. You just have to experience it. I encourage every person listening to this right now, please experience Fahrenheit.
I'm intrigued. What's it on? What can you play it on?
You
I
can
know
get
there's
it
a
on
modern port
Steam.
of it.
Yeah, the
it's on
remastered
PlayStation
port
4.
is on Steam. It should probably also be on PlayStation.
It is.
PlayStation's probably going to be the more stable place to play it because the PC port is well,
Steam
it
it
works,
is.
but I do remember it being a little bit of a shaky port.
Yeah,
But
this is
yeah,
a game I'm gonna get to at some point. It just seems so unhinged.
yeah. And unlike their later games, this one starts out more as this really like occultic horror sort of thing. So definitely more Parrot speed from the get go. And it kind of holds to that to some extent in the last act, but the last act does a lot of things. It does a lot.
It's only $10.
Yeah, yeah. It was a trip. I always think about it. Oh, and for the
Interesting.
record, that was a 61 on Metacritic.
Ooh.
Better than Knack.
Guess what? Addy wants this game on Steam, so
That checks out.
He should stop delaying and he should go play it.
Yeah, I definitely am going to. It's been on my. I think I bought it on PlayStation
yeah,
for cheap at some point, and
you
it's
have
been
it
on my
on
list.
Steam too.
There I go. I don't know how. A bundle, or it was $2 or something. I have no idea. So I got to play it on my Steam Deck.
Yeah.
There you go.
If everyone comes back hating it, I won't be in the slightest bit surprised, but at least you will also have memories of this game with me.
You will know.
I then went on to play Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls and
Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit Become Human, and I enjoyed all of them. And Heavy Rain should absolutely be played in French. If you're not playing it in French, you're playing it wrong.
Ooh, I've never played it yet. I played Detroit was the only one of those I played.
I played all of them. Beyond Two Souls only it just missed the cut. It only has a 70.
Yeah, that one was kind of spread. I didn't care. That was my least favorite of all of them. It was still entertaining, but it was my least
Yeah,
favorite.
I thought it was entertaining. I wouldn't have put it on my list even if it was below a 70, but it was
Yeah.
entertaining enough.
But seriously, play Heavy Rain in French and you'll understand the vision that they had.
Does he yell Jason? Is there a good equivalent to that part in
Oh
English?
yeah, they still absolutely yell Jason.
Okay,
But
good.
Jason.
That's the best part.
it just feels extra art housey when you're playing it in French and you're just like, oh right, this is David Cage. That's what he's from.
All right, so we're ready for our number ones, right?
Yep, the big reveal.
All right, so my number one game comes in at a 67, the GameCube version. And just so you know the big difference between here, the meta score is 67, the user score is 8.6. So
Wow.
the users like this game and the critics are dumb. And this is the game that actually got me back into JRPGs because since I had an N64, the only one I had was Paper Mario, which I loved, but it wasn't really a traditional one. So
Yeah.
on GameCube, my cousins actually rented this game randomly, and I played it and I was hooked. And it is Mega Man X Command Mission, which, if you guys watch Maddie at all, he also loves this game.
I vaguely remember hearing about this, but interesting.
Yeah, so it's a Mega Man X game, but it's a turn-based RPG, and it has full voice act. Well, not full voice acting, but a lot of voice acting in it. And it's a really good game. Like I want to play this again because it's been so long since I played it. But I absolutely love this game. I beat almost all the secret bosses too. There's some tough ones you really got to fight, and a lot of the combat's just traditional turn based, but there's a lot of interactivity as well, like unique to each character, that you have to do like little mini games during the attack, so you have to just like hold a button and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that. So it has some Paper Mario elements to it, but
I love that
it
kind of
it is a
stuff.
great game. If you like JRPGs, I feel like it's definitely a very underrated gem.
Capcom really just wanted to do anything and everything with that IP around that time, didn't they?
They did. Yeah, this was GameCube PS2.
It looks really neat. I'd never heard of this game.
Yeah, it's got some cell shading. X has this really cool cape that when he walks, that it's like fire cape glowing in the background. Zero is like a whiny emo like anime character in this game though.
There always has to
That's
be
kind of
one, right?
But yeah, that is definitely my number one because it's one of my favorite GameCube games and I'm excited to replay it again at some point.
that's fascinating. There's a lot of really interesting JRPGs I missed in the early 3D days, especially on the PS1.
Is this the only turn-based Mega Man X game, or is there
I,
more of these?
no, I think it's the only one. Just one random spin-off
Do you
was
know
it.
how does this compare to what was it, Mega Man Legends? Wasn't that also a
It wasn't.
turn-based
No, it
game?
wasn't
No,
turn
was it?
based. No, that was more like a action platformer type thing. I think I've never actually played those.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've only played at this point. I've only played like normal Mega Man, and then now I've played one Mega Man X side scroller game.
Yeah, it's
So I
funny
don't know
because
much about these.
yeah, like the regular Mega Man's like the least I've played. I think the only really regular Mega Man game I played when I was younger was Mega Man and Bass. Those were the only one I really played on Game Boy Advance.
I am seeing some kind of like turn grid in the game.
Yeah, there is a turn grid. Yep, early
Ooh.
Trails action.
So like could you actually manipulate that by slowing people down, speeding
Yeah, you
people
can,
up
and
and all
like by
that?
charging. Yeah, because one of the characters is like super fast. So whenever her turn is and you go into her overdrive mode, she takes every turn. And you can just keep
Jeez.
giving her an item that'll keep her in overdrive, and she can just keep the turn order on herself the whole time.
Dope. I love those kinds of turn-based systems. That is
It's
actually really cool looking. The graphic style is nice.
Yeah, they have the cell shaded. It's a very interesting game. It's just weird because they like never did anything remotely like it ever again.
Just a
Yeah.
nice random one-off.
Yep.
I feel like the GameCube had a lot of that going on.
It needed some JRPGs just like the N64. It ended up just getting some random ones, other than like Path of Radiance, which was one of the best games, of course. It didn't get many RPGs either. Thousand Year Door, of course, one of the best games too.
And I remember Tales of Symphonia was on that GameCube,
Oh
right?
yeah, it was. Yeah, they had that as an
I
exclusive.
always I always loved the art style, but I never played it. I just remember seeing ads for it in Game Informer.
Yep.
Well, neat. I might actually try that eventually.
Well, I will
Of course,
definitely play it again. So let me know when you play it, because I'll
yeah.
try it. I'll play it again for sure.
I would give it a whirl, but I don't see myself being very good at that. But my number one is also a random GameCube gem. This was not on my list because I never for 1 second thought that it would be eligible until Sam wrote in. I read Sam's list that he wrote in, and he had this on there, and I just couldn't believe it. And that is Kirby Air Ride, which only has a
Ayo,
61.
I
that's my
saw
number
that.
one.
There we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
I
I almost.
played this game
I
so much. I could not believe when I saw it was only a 61.
That's crazy. I almost put that on too, but I couldn't. I was in shock too. I'm like, there's no way, because people love this game. What's
I
the
saw that.
user score?
I saw that rating. I pretty much was like swearing at them. I was like, "What the f? What the literal? Why? Do you guys have no child? Like, did they have no childhoods? Do they have no joy in their life? Do they have nothing, no basis by which they can appreciate anything in the creativity of this game? What
City Trial. Enough said.
That's what it is. I
exactly?
never played the racing. I know there were 3 modes, right? Battle, race, and the city, I think, or something like that.
There was
I
like a
only did city.
top down racing mode, which was actually pretty fun. It like reminded me of the old PC like go
Yeah,
kart type games. Like it was just all top down view. But yeah, the main mode was like the least played one, the racing.
Yeah, the
plus
city
what?
was so good.
Why would you need the main one when you could do city mode, which put all the cool like it was a racing like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a roguelite racing game where you're running around the city trying to get all the best upgrades and carts you can, and then you're thrown into an actual race and you have to see how it
Yep.
performs.
You
It
don't
was
know if
incredible.
you don't know if it was gonna be a race or a battle or like I remember there would be hints, right? Sometimes it'd be like, oh, you might need this for this.
Yeah.
But really, the fun to us, I would play this with my friend Mike probably for like 100 hours over the years, and we just run around the map and we just look for the pieces of the
Yeah,
supercars because there was
yeah,
3 pieces for the
Mm-hmm.
3 pieces for each of the 2 supercars, and we would just run around and see who could find the pieces and get the supercar first, and that was how we had fun.
yeah, yeah. My brother and I had a friend that anytime we were at his house, this is what we played. We played Kirby Air Ride.
Yep.
So dope.
I just remember a very vivid memory of playing this game. My friend Mike always would win in our race to get the supercar for whatever reason. He just always had my number, and he got the 3 pieces to get the first supercar, and I had 2 pieces coincidentally for the other supercar, and he saw that I knew where the last piece was, so he flew over there, hit me 2 times to take the 2 pieces, and then took the last piece. So he got both the supercars in one match, and I just was like on a pitiful little starter vehicle in the race, and he just absolutely destroyed me.
Legitimately, the little box car was one of my favorites.
I love the milk truck. That's what we always called it. I don't know actually what it was, but it was so
I
good. I
love
always
that
like the
thing.
bat one, and then the one that looked like a falcon or whatever, the blue one.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was a good one. I was also rather fond of the green diamond shaped one.
I was about to mention that we called that like the pyramid car,
Yeah,
but it
which
couldn't turn.
yep, it could only go straight. So you had to hit the button to stop. Oh, it was the drift button or something, but instead of it drifting, it
It,
literally just stopped you in place
yeah,
and then you rotated and then you
yeah.
shot straight forward again.
Because it was a simple game. Like really, all you pressed was A. Because if you pressed A and held it, you'd stop driving and charge up to get like another boost to go
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
And then you could like spin your car and hit people with it. But then in the races and the battles, you also used items to throw at each other because like the
Oh
Kirby
yeah.
transformations.
Yeah, wasn't it like you did a little waggle with the stick and spun it around, and then you do an attack.
Yep, and just smack into the other people and take all their pieces they worked so hard for.
Yeah,
I
and all the
just I
cards
did
were so unique.
Yep, and it
I did not realize that game was so badly reviewed.
has a user score of 8.2.
Mm-hmm.
Even that's kind of low, to be honest. I mean, for
But how many hours I spent in this game, I was just shocked when I saw this was 61 today.
yeah, it's like as far as I'm concerned, this was a better racing game on the GameCube than Double Dash, and I love Double Dash.
Whoa! Let's calm down here, because Double Dash is like
No.
my favorite kart racing game. So
Double Dash is incredible, but if I'm being real with everyone, if I'm being true to my heart, I like Kirby Air Ride more.
oof.
I don't know how to compare them because honestly, like the racing part of Kirby was so secondary to us. It was really just the city mode.
The
Like we just run
sandbox,
around
yeah.
looking for the pieces, or we do like the events that popped up and try to like fill in the board to get all the events. And then like sometimes we get to the end and it'd be like, all right, now race, and we just press start and quit and go back to the city. That's like all we would do. So it's hard for me to compare the two.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the type who likes doing time trials and actually, being good at the racing part, then yeah, Mario Kart is probably more your speed, but I just love Kirby Air Ride.
I would love a nice man. Imagine they have a nice HD remaster of this with some online. Whew.
And maybe a
I
couple
wouldn't
new
need another
cards.
game. I wouldn't need another game. That's all I would play.
And-
Connor and I could play it every night.
I was gonna say I think what we need after this episode is we need to figure out a way to play Shrek 2 online together.
We
is
do,
what
I
we
know.
need.
I think the Dolphin emulator has a
Ooh.
an online component, and if I had to guess how it works, I'd imagine it's like maybe some sort of local multiplayer thing over internet. Not sure. I'd
Might have to look into that
that.
because some Shrek 2, some Kirby Air Ride. Maybe I would give in and play Mario Party 5 one time.
Well, there's other Mario parties. I like the N64 one still better, but we could play Mario Party 4 or 6 instead. Those are both good too.
I'll trust you. What was the Mario Party with the microphone?
6 and 7 both had it, but 6 was the first one with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I never played those. I always wanted the GameCube microphone. Remember it had that game, was it Odama? I think it was
yeah,
the pinball strategy
you,
game with the
blew
microphone.
into the mic. It was weird.
I'm probably misremembering as far as the Dolphin emulator goes, but I wonder if I imagine you can get the Dolphin emulator running with the Steam overlay enabled, and then use maybe Steam's remote play together.
Ooh,
Yeah,
we'll have
would
to look into it. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd probably not be ideal since I'm so far away from you guys.
Well,
So the bit rates will not be wonderful
Well-
for one of us.
yeah, well, the most unideal thing is not being able to play a Kirby Air Ride, so anything is better than not.
True.
Well, I'm glad that we both had the same number one. It was very perfect for
Yep.
for a perfect game on GameCube.
I knew that. I was going to see that one on your list as well.
Well, yeah, so I think that wraps up. Were there any games that you wanted to shout out before we end that didn't make your top 10 that were below 70 that you wrote down?
I was scraping the barrel as it was, so
I think I have one or two. You know what? I'm just going to give a shout out to yet another racing game, which is weird that I'm now mentioning 3 different racing games since that's like I usually only go for the racing sims, but Quantum Redshift on the original Xbox was exactly a 70, and that game massively underrated. The soundtrack is fire, and you should go listen to it.
ooh.
Okay, it's very electronica, so if you're not into that, you probably won't enjoy it, but I love it. Good game.
My only other shout out that I had on my list that didn't make the cut is the game 100-Foot Robot Golf. That is a
Oh, yeah.
56 Metacritic. And it is just a game that is exactly what it sounds like. But what's fun is you all just swing at the same time. So part of the strategy is should you be hitting the ball or should you be jumping up in the air or standing in front of the people to try to block their shots as they're shooting it. And you're all giant robots in a giant city.
Yeah, I remember
Pretty
hearing
awesome.
about that game. Parrot, I was so scared for your number one that you were going to say it was Chibi Robo, and I was like, that game better not have below 70. But it has a 75. It's close.
Oh man, that would be an absolute travesty if I had to put this on that list.
Mm.
But Chibi Robo Ziplash, the 3DS one, is a 59. So, but I did not play that because I've heard such bad things. But maybe I'll try it because that is this around the same score as Knack, and we all know how good Knack is.
That's
so
true.
Oh, I have to give one last shout out to the lowest game I looked up that I liked, but didn't like it enough to put on my list. Looney Tunes Acme Arsenal, which has a 40 on Xbox 360. That game's there's no way that game's worse than Knack. So
Yeah, I've
I
heard
don't
good things
understand.
about that game, actually.
I'm not even really all that into Looney Tunes games, but I had a ton of fun with Acme Arsenal. I even beat it, which was rare for me at the time.
Oh, the worst game I can think of on my list that I did not really like, but I just wanted to see was Totem Ball. I don't know if either of you ever played that. It was on Xbox 360, and you had to use
I've
the
never
Xbox
heard of it.
360 camera, not the
Oh
Kinect,
gosh.
the little camera, and you had to use
Oh
that
Lord.
to control the ball around. Oh,
Oh
it was so
jeez.
bad. But that only has a 44, and it didn't even work.
Wait, it didn't work, and it had a 44 and went
Yeah,
that
it has
high.
it didn't even work. I remember just sitting in my room, waving my hands around to try to roll this stupid ball, and it didn't even work. And they're trying to tell me that game is only like 10 points worse than Knack or The Order. I mean, come on, give me a break.
It's higher than Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it didn't even work.
What? All right. Well, that was an interesting bashing on
Yeah,
things that we think were.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about games that are bad that we like, but I just had to shout out one game that's just bad in comparison to the other games, to show that those other games that we talked about just weren't so bad.
No.
So if there were any other games, any other bad games that you love that you didn't get to write in about, come chat with us about them in the Discord. I feel like this is just a really fun topic to talk about.
It sure is interesting. Lots of things that can happen with it.
I was trying to make that capsule sound again, but
oh god, go, like, oh, shut up. But yeah, so come chat with us in the Discord about all the bad games you love, or tell us about how the bad games we love are actually just bad and we're coping. So we will be back next time, I believe, just for our regular scheduled backlog discussion, and then in May we are going to have quite a few different special episodes. So stay tuned for that. So until next time, we'll see you later.
sayonara.
Bye bye.